Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. We would like to welcome you to this lecture on extracting lessons from the language of the Quran. Thank you very much for taking the time out to join us. We are very honored to have with us here Sheikh Tame to take us on this journey. As we approach the holy month of Ramadan, it's a reminder for us to zoom into the Quran and learn as much as we can from this sacred book. That is a blessing for us. Sheikh Haytham will be examining the language, style, and composition of the composition of the Holy Quran, and also teaching us what we can learn from it so that we can live more transformative lives as human beings and emulate the character of the Prophet, peace be upon him, who was in fact the walking Quran. Many of you know Sheikh Haytham, alhamdulillah, very well, but I just give a short biography for those of you who are not aware of Sheikh Haytham. Sheikh Haytham Tamim is the founder and main teacher of the Utrecht Foundation. I will put the link to the Utrecht Foundation on this chat because they do amazing courses and lectures, and really you can really learn a lot from the Utrecht Foundation, mashallah. And it's provided a leading vision for Islamic learning in the UK, which has influenced the way Islamic knowledge is disseminated. He has designed and delivered over 200 unique courses since Utrecht started in 2001. His extensive expertise spans over 30 years across the main jurisprudence schools of thought and different Islamic denominations through highly advanced classical and religious texts. He has an unbroken chain of scholarship, which goes back to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and was blessed with the opportunity to study with some of the foremost scholars in their expertise. He holds the highest ijazas in Quran, Hadith, and Fiqh. Sheikh Haytham, you are very welcome.
Thank you, Aziza. Barakallah fiki for the invitation. MashaAllah, useful as usual. Inshallah, we'll start. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وفقها في الدين يا رب العالمين. وفقنا للعمل بما يرضيك عنا وإلى غيرك لا تكلنا. افتح أقفال قلوبنا بذكرك وألهمنا شكرك واجعلنا من أهل معرفتك ولا تجعلنا من الغافلين. آمين. The topic of today is very dear and close to my heart, the Quran. How do we reflect upon the Quran? How do we understand the Quran? How do we action the Quran in our life? So I know the big question is, we are not Arabic speakers. And even the Arabic speakers don't assume for a second that they understand every single word when they read the Quran. No, they don't. So how do we understand the Quran then? We have, let me just break it down into two main categories. One, which is the general understanding. One, which is the specific understanding. The general understanding, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invited everyone to reflect upon the Quran. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. So they should reflect upon the Quran, ponder upon the Quran. And this is a general invitation for everyone. So tadabbur is the mission of every believer. But the second division is tafsir. Tafsir is the mission of the specialists. So somebody who has no qualification, he cannot be a mufassir. Yes, so this is why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was the master of the Arabic and he received the revelation sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if anyone wants to know anything, he will come and ask the Prophet alaihi salatu wasallam. Apart from the linguistic thing, because it's their language, they understand it. But there are some rulings, some issues which they have no idea what does it mean. So they will ask the Prophet ﷺ. So we have people of knowledge, as Allah stated in the Quran, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. So ask those of the people of knowledge if you don't know. So Allah is directing us to ask people of knowledge regarding the Quran and anything in life. We go to the specialist. You don't go to the plumber if you have a toothache. You go to the dentist, so you go to the specialist. So this is in general the first introduction. The second introduction, it's about the structure of the Arabic language. You can learn the structure of the Arabic language through, of course, the proper channels, through studying the Arabic, studying, even if you are not an Arab. I can tell you that the majority of the top scholars in Islam are non-Arab. Bukhari, for instance, Muslim, they were non-Arab from Bukhara and from Sijistan and these kind of things, countries. They were non-Arab originally, non-Arab. And even the top scholar in the Arabic linguistic language, Sibawayh, he's not an Arab. And his book is the top reference in Arabic language. So it's not a hurdle or an obstacle if you are a non-Arab to learn the Arabic, inshallah ta'ala. But until then, it's a long way. So how can we benefit from the Quran? I will share with you some reflections, which inshallah ta'ala will benefit all of us. The very first reflection, when I read the Quran, of course, every time you have a new meaning, and even the very same verse you repeat many times, and every time Allah gives you a new reflection on the ayah. So the Quran was revealed on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We know this. It was revealed in Ramadan, and Ramadan is very close to us now, inshallah. But the interesting reflection is when Allah says He revealed it on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I realized beautifully in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we can see here. So Allah Azza wa Jal is saying, وَإِنَّهُ لَتَنزِيلُ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ نَزَلَ بِهِ الرُّوحُ الْأَمِينُ عَلَى قَلْبِكَ لِتَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُنذِرِينَ بِلِسَانٍ عَرَبِيٍّ مُبِينٍ صلى الله عليه وسلم. So what amazed me here, Allah Azza wa Jal is saying, He revealed it on your heart. And this is in Surat Al-Shu'ara, sorry. In Surat Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِنَّهُ نَزَّلَهُ عَلَى قَلْبِكَ. He revealed it on your heart. So I went through the verses, okay, why Allah Azza wa Jal is saying that He revealed it on the Prophet's heart. What is the significance of saying that He revealed it on his heart? Any reflection on this? You see in the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal says many times, إِنَّهَا لَا تَعْمَى الْأَبْصَارِ وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَى الْقُلُوبُ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ. The blindness is not in the eyes, but it's really in the heart. So the heart is the place where it's the reception, where you receive the knowledge from Allah, the light from Allah, the barakah from Allah, the opening from Allah. So it's the station of reception. So this is why Allah Azza wa Jal is saying, He revealed it on your heart. And again, if I were to mention the heart, qalb in Arabic, what comes to your mind? Forget now, the first thing probably the Valentine Day, a few days ago. Yes, the first thing comes to your mind is love, without doubt. The heart is the symbol of love. Yes? So it's not coincidental that Allah Azza wa Jal is saying that He revealed it on your heart, which is the symbol of love. Okay? And symbol of mercy as well. The mercy is in the heart. Yes? Allah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, إنها رحمة يجعلها الله في قلوب عباده. So he says this is a mercy Allah put in the hearts of His servants. So he mentioned that the mercy resides in the heart, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the heart is the symbol of mercy, symbol of love. Okay. And Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have sent you but as a mercy for mankind, alayhi salatu wassalam. So the message then it's revealed on his heart, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, peace and mercy and love. So this is, if you want, the reflection on the ayah. Why it was revealed on his heart? Because the heart is the reception of the knowledge. The heart is a symbol of love. And our message is the message of love, the message of mercy, the message of peace. You feel tranquility in your heart. So peace in your heart. So it's a beautiful reflection when you understand that Allah Azza wa Jal made this message or revealed this message on his heart, alayhi salatu wassalam, not on his mind, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, not on him in general, but on his heart, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So we need to activate this message in our hearts as well. This is the most important thing. So how to activate this message in our heart? Listen to the second ayah, which I want to share with you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وكذلك أوحينا إليك روحا من أمرنا ما كنت تدري ما الكتاب ولا الإيمان ولكن جعلناه نورا نهدي به من نشاء من عبادنا وإنك لتهدي إلى صراط مستقيم in Surat Al-Shura. And thus we have sent to you ruhan from our command. Is the only verse in the Quran which expresses the Quran or called the Quran as Ruh. Allah called the Quran Ruh. So I was a long time ago when traveling was allowed. I was coming back to London. So I was reading the Quran on the plane. So I came across this verse. Of course, alhamdulillah, I recited the Quran many times. And I recited this verse many times. But this time, it just struck me. It freezed me. I stopped and I was reflecting on the ayah. Why Allah Azza wa Jal is calling the Quran Ruh, which is the spirit. It's the soul. So when you say something, the spirit, you just talk about life. You talk about body without life. You talk about body with life. Yes? So these meanings started coming to my mind. So Allah Azza wa Jal is calling the Quran as Ruh. Okay, soul. Soul to what? It's like our life without the Quran, it's life without soul or body without soul, which is just mechanical, which is boring if you want. So Ibn Ata'illah Secondary rahimahullah mentioned in his book Al-Hikam Al-Ata'iyah a beautiful hikmah. He says الأعمال صور مجردة وروحها وجود سر الإخلاص فيها. So our actions are like lifeless forms, and to bring life to these forms you need ikhlas. So ikhlas is the spirit of your action, which makes your action life, which gives life to your action is ikhlas. So any action that has been done with no ikhlas, it has no value, no reward. So coming back to the Quran, it took me all the trip back reflecting on this ayah, and I couldn't believe it that I read it many times, but I didn't get this meaning from the ayah. Allah is calling the Quran Ruh. So it is our Ruh, it is our soul, it is the soul for our life. We live by the Quran. So those who are not living by the Quran, they are not really living, even if they are living, if you know what I mean. So the real life then, the true life is to live by the Quran, because it's the soul, Ruh. Can you live without soul? Definitely not. Then the Quran is the soul. Beautiful. So subhanallah, and other things which I wanted to share with you. Surat Al-Fatiha. In Surat Al-Fatiha, of course, we've delivered Surat Al-Fatiha many times, alhamdulillah. You can even read some of our blogs on Surat Al-Fatiha on our website. In Surat Al-Fatiha, it's the summary of the whole Quran. So I wish probably this is one of the ideas. We can make a full course on Surat Al-Fatiha and deliver it one day to you, inshallah. So in Surat Al-Fatiha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want to share with you just two things in the surah. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. So in this form, you alone we worship, and from you alone we seek help. Okay. In the beginning of the surah, we say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of the universe. Okay, so I am talking to Allah Azza wa Jal by saying, I praise you, O Allah, you are the Lord of the universe. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Maliki Yawm al-Din. So it's one-to-one between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes? And then إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. So it moved to the plural form. It was between me and Allah, and now is a plural form. What it has to do with the plural here? So I am talking to Allah from me to him directly. It's a direct speech between me and Allah Azza wa Jal. Where did this congregation came from to share with me this speech, to share with me this intimate discourse between me and Allah? Where did it come from? Allah deliberately put the plural form here. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Our religion, to show us that our religion is not self-centered. Our religion is community-centered, congregational, and it has the spirit of the community. We care about others. It's not just me, myself, and I. It's an antidote against egoism. It teaches you and helps you and instill the seed of caring for others. 17 times a day we repeat Al-Fatiha in our prayers. This is on the obligatory prayers, let alone the Sunnah prayers. So it can be beyond this. 17 times a day we repeat Al-Fatiha in our prayers. It's training our minds and our souls to care for others in the system which Allah created for us, training us to care for others. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ. Yes, we worship you. Yes, you alone, we worship. Yes, you alone, we worship. So it's talking about us. Us is the community of the believers. Community of the believers, whether it's in Lagos or whether it's in Nigeria, whether it's in Ghana, whether it's in London or Arabia or whatever it might be. All one community. And one speaks for all. So I am speaking on your behalf and you are speaking on my behalf. So if we were to be able to see the grid of these connections in the spiritual realm, it will be beyond your comprehension. Every time we go into our prayers, it's 24/7 prayers across the globe. Every one of us is doing dua for others without noticing, always this in mind. So I am doing dua for you and you are doing dua for me. So this connection before the social media in place is the real spiritual connection with all believers. It's the spiritual grid in our world. So it helps us to be connected. So we are not alone. We are connected. We are one community supporting one another, especially these days where everyone is feeling lonely. But the community of believers is not a lonely community. It's a very binded community. So إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. And then the second ayah, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Guide us again. Includes them in your supplication. Guide us, not guide me. It could have been the structure of the first ayah. It could have been إياك أعبد. You alone I worship, and from you alone I seek help. But it didn't say this. It did say, from you alone we worship, we, not I, and from you alone we, not I, we seek help. Here it's اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Guide us, not guide me. Although me also, although us includes me, but it's not focusing on you. Guide us to the straight path. So you are including everyone in your supplication. And very quickly, when you go to the end of your salah, what do we say? التحيات لله والصلوات والطيبات السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. And then, yes, what else? السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. So you say salutation to Allah first, to His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The third salutation and greeting, you say Assalamu alayna. So greeting upon all of us again. So the beginning of the salah, it connects us with the community, and the end of the salah, it connects us with the community. Assalamu alayna. So peace be upon all of us, not me. وَعَلَى عِبَادِ اللَّهِ الصَّالِحِينَ, and upon all the righteous believers, yes, or servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, it's taking you away from the misery of the life and bad communication and bad people sometimes around you. It connects you to the spiritual realm. It's connecting you with the righteous people, with the top quality people. It boosts your iman. So you are making dua and salutation for them. They are making dua and salutation for you. It's this grid of mutual supplication, mutual dua, mutual care and love across the globe. Even if you can't feel this, but it is affecting you. Every salah, somebody is praying. You are getting share from this. Every salah, I am praying. You are getting share from this. And this is so lovely to feel it and to live it as well. So we see this in Surat Al-Fatiha, which we recite on a daily basis. But it's amazing when you get into this level of reflection. It's so beautiful. The other thing which is beautiful as well, all the Quran is beautiful, to be honest with you. It's something I call it the good opinion. Allah thinks about us in a good way. In Arabic, we call it husn al-dhan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala motivates us. And this, which I call these verses and the collection of these verses, motivational verses in the Quran. Motivational verses. Allah Azza wa Jal is saying, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ سِرًّا وَعَلَانِيَةً فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. So those who are spending their wealth by night and by day, privately and publicly, will receive their reward, and they have no fear, no grief. When you read this, again, I read this ayah many times, but one time I read it, it just inspired me, and I couldn't but to see that the Quran is talking about 24/7, this concept before we have this concept of 24/7 in the new world, if you want. So they are spending their wealth. Allah is talking about the believers, yes, who are spending their wealth during the day, during the night. Now, during the day, it's obvious. Everyone understands this. But the amazing thing, during the night, who goes during the night and give charity during the night? Who does this? You tell me. This is the community of the believers. They go during the night. So it means the ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is a sleepless ummah, is an active ummah, is caring to others, caring for others, and they even don't sleep. It means they are not lazy ummah. I don't know what you are talking about. At the moment, we are a lazy ummah. Astaghfirullah. Yes, but this is not the ummah of the Quran. Ummah of the Quran is a motivated and active ummah, not lazy ummah. And this is the proof. During the day, during the night. So they are always active, always day and night, doing goodness, sharing goodness, caring for others, looking after them, looking after each other. And this is the ummah of the Quran. Wow. This is what the ayah is telling us. You can see, so beautiful. And this is as well, Allah Azza wa Jal is motivating us. We are not like this, but He's saying that you are like this. So it's motivating you to, yes, I will care more. I will be more active. I will give more. So it's a motivational verse. Allah Azza wa Jal is motivating us. The other verse as well about motivation, there are plenty, but I've collected some actually to share with you, is the last ayah in Surat Al-Baqarah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where He says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. And the rest of the ayah. Yeah. So Allah does not burden any soul beyond its capacity. So its credit is what it earns, and against it is what it commits. Our Lord, do not condemn us if we forget or make a mistake. You see here, if we forget or make a mistake. So what does it mean? Let me tell you. So we are asking Allah to forgive us if we've done anything wrong. Yes? And doing anything wrong is divided into three main reasons. Three main reasons which makes you do something wrong. Number one, you have forgotten. You've done something out of forgetfulness. Number two, you did not forget. You've done it by mistake. Yes, you were intending to do something and it went in the wrong way. Okay? But there is a third reason Allah did not mention here, which is doing the wrong thing deliberately. And we know that, astaghfirullah, sometimes we do this. You do something wrong deliberately. It's not by mistake. Yes? You didn't do it by mistake. You've done this deliberately. But Allah did not mention this here. Yes? Why? So the reason behind mistakes, three. Allah mentioned two and left the third one. I was checking the ayah and checking why Allah did not mention the third one. It's because He's motivating us. He's saying that you don't do mistakes deliberately. You are my servants. You are better than this. If you were to do a mistake, it's out of forgetfulness or you've done it in the wrong way. But you don't do it deliberately because you are my servant. I have a good opinion about you. We do this with our children. We do this with our students sometimes. You've seen somebody doing something wrong. You've seen it in your own eyes. But you do not want to embarrass them or to tell them off. You say, probably you've done this by mistake. You didn't mean to do this, or you didn't mean to say this. To encourage them, to give them a way out, to repent. Otherwise, if you were to say, I've seen you, you've done this deliberately, he will say, so what? Then you have trapped him in the mistake. You want to take him out of it to a better situation, to a better position. So it's not name and shame. It's about giving them another opportunity. And Allah is doing this to us. He knows that we do things deliberately sometimes. Astaghfirullah al-azim. But He's having good opinion about us, motivating us. You are my servants. You don't do this deliberately. You are better than this. And it makes us feel very shy. That look, Allah Azza wa Jal, He thinks about us that we are better than this. And look at us. We are not better than this, but we will do, inshallah, something better. So it motivates you to say, yes, He's giving me another opportunity. Let me be better. So it's a motivational ayah. It's beautiful ayah. We read it, we feel the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal enveloping us and telling us, I think of you that you are a better person. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us up to that good opinion which He thinks about us, inshallah. And the other ayah as well, in Surat Al-Nisa, it's in the same direction actually, in the same direction. Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ وَلَا مُؤْمِنَةٍ وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ أَن يَقْتُلَ مُؤْمِنًا إِلَّا خَطَأً. Never should a believer kill another believer unless by error. But in real life, it's not happening like this, especially nowadays, since probably the last 10 years. We've seen war all over the place, Syria, Iraq, you name it. Even Nigeria, even Bosnia, what have you, you name it. We've seen deliberate killing. It's not just by mistake, but Allah Azza wa Jal is talking about the believers. If it happened between the believers, of course, they are not deliberately doing this. It's a mistake. It's a mistake. So come back and repent and rectify and wipe up your bad deeds with good deeds. This is how you get into a better position rather than being stuck where you are in evil and in sins and so on. So Allah Azza wa Jal is again motivating us that this should not happen between the believers. And if it happened, it's by mistake. Yes, it means avoid it. Don't deliberately go for that. Don't do that. It's not allowed. Again, in Surah Al-Nur, Allah Azza wa Jal, لولا إذ سمعتموه ظن المؤمنون والمؤمنات بأنفسهم خيرا. So it's another ayah where Allah Azza wa Jal is talking about, in Surah Al-Nur, the accusation which they have thrown on Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. So Allah is teaching the community how to deal with such rumors and accusations. And He's putting the default position. لولا إذ سمعتموه ظن المؤمنون والمؤمنات بأنفسهم خيرا. When you heard that, you should have thought good about yourselves, not accepted anything and any rumor and go with the waves. No, this is not the default position. This is the Jahiliyyah position. Jahiliyyah position, you go with the rumors. You go with the fake news. You go with, I don't know, these kind of accusations, left, right, and center in the community. No, don't do that. First position, default position for the believer is to negate this from any other believer and say, no, I don't believe this. Do you have a proof? Unless you have a proof, you don't go for this. So He's putting the position that the believer, he's a very sane, very careful person in accusing others. He will never accuse others. He has always a good opinion about others. Of course, You don't have bad opinion about people. You always have a good opinion about people because you don't want people to have bad opinion about you. Be in their shoes. If you have a bad opinion about everyone, then everyone will have bad opinion about you as well. Don't do that. No. So it's creating harmonious, caring, and loving community, and this is exactly what we need to do. So again and again, it's motivating us to be better. The whole revelation, actually, uh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent uh, for three things. The revelation since Adam till Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, all of it in the same direction to achieve three things. Number one is monotheism, tawheed of Allah, worshipping Allah alone subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two is uh, to perfect the good character. Number three, to perfect the good conduct. The Prophet ﷺ says in the hadith, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I've been sent to perfect the good character. Yes, and we see in the Quran all the way through in more than 50 positions and 50 verses in the Quran, Allah combined between Iman and good deeds. Iman and good deeds. Iman and good deeds. They are always connected. So, yes, our position is to connect Iman with good deeds, perfect our character, perfect our conduct. The whole Sharia is about these three things. On the top of the pyramid is Tawheed, monotheism of Allah Azza wa Jal. And then you have the perfection of good character, perfection of good conduct. If we were to do these three, inshallah, we will be on among the top of the list of those whom Allah loves, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have other verses as well. For instance, Allah described His own servants, Ibadur Rahman. So who are those? Ibadur Rahman. Allah mentioned many times in the Quran, Ibadi or Ibadur Rahman or Inna Ibadi, in different positions, in different verses. And Surat Al-Hijr, for instance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna ibadi laysa laka alayhim sultan. He is addressing the shaitan. Allah says to the shaitan, my servants, you have no authority on them. Yeah, but we know many times that we are, trapped with the shaitanic whispers, this, that, and the other. So Allah is motivating us. If you are with me, shaitan can't get to you. So be with me then. So motivating us to be with Him rather than to open our ears to the whispers of the shaitan. Don't. Be with Allah, and then Allah will protect you, will shield you. And this is the meaning of أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge in Allah from the outcast shaitan. So yes, it's shielding you, protecting you, but you have to mean it and you have to understand it. Otherwise, it doesn't work if you were to say, I've said it, but it didn't work. It didn't work because you don't understand what you are saying and you don't mean it. Yes, unless you mean it, you understand what you are saying, Allah will protect you. And then in another verse, Allah says, وَقُلْ لِعِبَادِي يَقُولُ الَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Tell my servants to say what is best. Again, is motivating us not to say what is good. No. الَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. What is best. And who are those people? Ibadur Rahman. The servants of Ar-Rahman. Am I one of them? Yes, anyone can be one of them, but you have to fit the criteria. Say what is best, you be among them. So it's a motivation. So you can be the VIP, yes, but you have to fulfill the conditions. Fulfill the conditions and you will be with them. So Allah is motivating us. Be among Ibadur Rahman. Say what is best. Do what is best. And in Surat Al-Furqan, the very famous surah, وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. So Allah described It's a lengthy description of Ibadur Rahman, beautiful description. Again, motivational. Allah is saying to us, you be one of them, be among them. Yes. So when you walk on earth, walk with modesty, not with arrogance. Don't look down at anyone. Don't humiliate anyone. Don't think that you are better than anyone. No. Think that everyone is better than you. Have humility. So Allah is teaching us how to be humble. Allah loves those who are humble. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالَّذِينَ يَبِيتُونَ لِرَبِّهِمْ سُجَّدًا وَقِيَامًا. And those who prostrate during the night, spend their night prostrating, doing ruku' and sujood and praying. These are the servants of Ar-Rahman. So can I be one of them? Yes. And it's the right time now, Rajab, preparation for Ramadan. It's the month of planting the seed. And Sha'ban is the month of watering the seed. And Ramadan is the month of reaping the fruits or harvest. So yes, it's encouraging us to be among the best people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is motivating us and telling us how to be among the best, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what we need to do. If Allah thinks that we are better, then let's do that. And Allah will support us without doubt. And the last thing which I want to finish with, the limits, hudud of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran and put limits on us. And these are very limited limits, actually. If you were to say, what are the prohibitions? Give me the list of prohibitions. It's not a 100,000 item on the list of prohibition. Actually, no. I work in Islamic finance as a consultant for different banks and funds. We usually say the list of prohibitions is around 10 on the list. That's it. The rest is halal. You avoid these 10 items or 7 items, depends on the transaction, and the rest is halal. Okay? So Allah Azza wa Jal is talking about the limits. Why Allah did put limits in place. This is one of the things which sometimes if we don't understand it, it can be can be an obstacle in our progress. So Allah has mentioned hududullah, the limits of Allah in the Quran 6 times in 4 different surahs. In Surat Al-Baqarah, Allah Azza wa Jal says, تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَقْرَبُوهَا. I'll go through this quickly. I know it's a long topic, but anyway. تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَقْرَبُوهَا. In Surat Al-Baqarah. These are the limits of Allah. Don't come near it. Don't come near it. Okay. Again in Surah Al-Baqarah, تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَعْتَدُوهَا. These are the limits of Allah. Do not overstep them. And in Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَتِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ. So these are the limits of Allah. When he was talking about, again, it's important to know the topics. When he was talking about inheritance, I know some people are not happy with 2-to-1 shares provisions and these kind of things. Allah did put it for a particular reason, even if you don't understand it. Part of being Allah's servant is to say, Sami'na wa ata'na. We obey, we hear and we obey. This is part of our connection with Allah Azza wa Jal, and part of our identity as Muslims is to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ وَيَتَعَدَّ حُدُودَهُ. So whomsoever is disobeying Allah and His Messenger and overstepping the boundaries, then punishment for him or her. وَالْحَافِظُونَ لِحُدُودِ اللَّهِ. Allah Azza wa Jal is praising His servants, those who are راكعون ساجدون آمرون بالمعروف الناهون عن المنكر. So he's giving the description of the best quality of people. then they are doing ruku' and sujood, and they forbid what is evil, command what is good, and preserve the limits of Allah Azza wa Jal and do not overstep them. Okay, if we are not listening and we want to overstep them, listen to what Allah is saying here. تلك حدود الله ومن يتعدى حدود الله فقد ظلم نفسه. If you are not listening, if you are overstepping the limits, when you have the full right to do so, you have the choice to do so, but bearing in mind you have to bear the consequences of your choices. So you are putting yourself into hardships. You are oppressing yourself by throwing yourself into punishment of Allah Azza wa Jal. So if you were to understand this, then you know that Allah Azza wa Jal is putting these limits for you. It's not for him. Allah will not benefit from any of this, but the benefit is for us. So he designed the system, and he said, like for instance, there's a minefield here. There's a post saying that this is a minefield, don't enter. And somebody says, come on, this is restricting my freedom. I don't care. I want to go to this minefield. So what's this sign here? Just jump over the fence and go into it, and then express your freedom. Allah is saying you will be hurt. You will go through something which is not good for you. I'm telling you, don't try it. These are the limits I did put in place. You have the choice. It's your call. But out of his mercy, Azza wa Jal, he clarified what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad, and that choice is ours. So in this very quick journey through some reflections in the Quran, I hope that you have benefited from it, inshallah. I'll open the floor for your questions.
Here, Sheikh Haytham. I've been writing like a little badger here on my desk, you know. This is really, alhamdulillah, there's a lot of food for thought here. Jazakallah here. I just have a few questions, and I like the, I mean, there's a couple of things, and it's going to be a little bit convoluted, but hopefully, inshallah, it will make some sense. So this zooming in on, you know, we all read the Quran, but there's sometimes there's a lack of reflection. You know, there's an automotive approach. You know, yes, I've read it. Oh, lack of pondering and reflecting and really saying, what does this really mean? Like you were explaining on the plane. You suddenly said, oh, ruh, I've read this word a lot of times. What does that really mean? And you dig in deep. The first question I have for you is, how do we, as Muslims, start to embrace this approach of really starting to contemplate and ponder? So we stop being mechanical, and you know, sometimes we have meaning and we're like, oh yes, okay, that's true, I'll try and embody that principle. But really starting to look at the Quran with fresh eyes and say, what is the scope of this statement? What can it really mean for me? How can it direct me? What can I learn from life and myself? And how can I transform myself through these words?
There are different ways to do this, but let me share with you my experience. First, when you read, you definitely have to have the right intention, that I'm reading the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to benefit from his words. I want to get into the deeper meaning of these words. I'm not saying that the first reflection I will get the meaning. No. So you read it many times, and then something comes out of it, a question. You have, inshallah, again, another course might be in the future, a dialogue with the Quran. How do you have this dialogue with the Quran? You ask the Quran and the Quran replies back. And this is a mechanism we can learn, inshallah ta'ala. So what does this ayah mean? What this might be a word, as I showed you, one word, ruh. What is it? I went through the linguistic meanings, through the tafsirs, through this, through that. I've done on one word plenty of readings until I got to this. Yes? So start with one word in the ayah. Focus on one word in the ayah. For instance, let me give you a practical one. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yes? Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So ar-Rahman ar-Rahim derives from Rahma. Rahma, mercy. How do I activate mercy? then you have to be merciful in your life towards your family, your friends, neighbors, your colleagues, your Muslims, non-Muslims, your community. This is the activation of rahmah of Allah Azza wa Jal. Yes, and so on. So these small examples, and you can take it and make it bigger and bigger, inshallah ta'ala. So ruh in the ayah, spirit, soul. So how can I make the Quran my soul? It means you don't do anything which does not comply with the Quran. It's like your life. You can't live without the Quran. You read on a daily basis, even if you were to uh, forget or something, as the companions used to do. They used to repay it next day. There's this commitment. I have to recite every day a special portion. If I didn't get it today, I will repay it next day. This commitment. So yes, by committing yourself to the Quran can allow you to understand more of it, inshallah ta'ala.
So, and also I think this, what you're saying is also saying this almost this conviction that the Quran is trying to dialogue with me, is trying to tell me something. There are nuggets in there. This belief in that. So that is opening the mind to it. Because unless the mind is shut, then there's no, nothing can penetrate. But this conviction that I can get deeper insights into how I'm supposed to interact in life and how I'm supposed to, yes.
Yeah, remember, Allah is speaking to us. The Quran is the word of Allah. So Allah is addressing me. Every time I read the Quran, Allah is talking to me. This is the best way to see it. Yes, and this is the reality of it. Allah is addressing me when I read the Quran. It's for me. Yes? And through this, inshallah ta'ala, you can develop the reflections.
And another question is, again, with this earlier part that you referred to about the charging the battery, i.e. the ruh is the spirit, and without interacting with the Quran on a regular basis and trying to embody the principles, in a sense, you're not charging the batteries from the ultimate source. Yeah. And this is an image I have in my mind, that one has to charge one's batteries in a regular basis, on a daily basis, spiritually charged with with the real fuel. And I'd like to hear your words on the reality of. I mean, in the Quran it tells us you were created, but to worship me. And I'd like to hear your words on, if we do not charge with the ultimate batteries, with the ultimate source, would we naturally as human beings be charging our batteries with something else?
The simple answer, no, because Allah stated in the ayah, ruh, which is the electricity, if you want, electricity which makes the light shine. So without electricity, you have the light, but it won't shine. Where's the electricity? The electricity is the ruh. The ruh. So you have lifeless bodies with no ruh in it. So in order to get the ruh, you need the Quran.
Yes. And I'm wondering whether people, quite often what we see in society is people trying to fill themselves with the superficial things because they're searching for that, in a sense. They're searching for this electricity, but they're trying to get sparks here, sparks there with different things.
Yes.
So just before we open the floor, I know I'm hogging the mic, but I will come back later, but I'll open the floor. There was a statement that you made with regards to the motivational verses. So the motivational verses, and really what a wonderful example to follow, of to always think the best, to be positive, to encourage others, to encourage people to meet their potential. But we find that we live in a society that is very judgmental, that is the harsh critic. We find that our minds, the self-talk a lot of times one has in one's mind is castigating, judgmental, condemning. But we're seeing from the Quranic narrative that this is not the example, and this is not how our Creator is approaching us. What can we do to try and replicate that in our everyday lives and in our minds?
It's a tarbiyah process. Nurturing your mind, nurturing your children, nurturing your community on the Quranic concept. A Quranic concept is about having good opinion about others, motivating others, getting the best of everyone. Everyone has goodness in him or her. Of course, we have some bad as well and some evil in each and every one of us. But to work on the good side rather than ignoring the good side and focusing on the bad side. And this is the mission of the reformers, those who come and see the best in you and bring you to the path. It's the mission of the prophets and messengers and those who are following their path. That when you look at somebody, don't try to penetrate his mistakes and look at his mistakes or her mistakes. Try to see her goodness or his goodness. And there is always goodness in people. But sometimes it's the lenses which we are putting on allows us to see this color or that color. So we need to change lenses from lenses of picking on people's mistakes to lenses on checking goodness in people and utilizing them in what is useful in the community. And this is what he used to do, alayhi salatu wassalam, inspired by the Quran.
Can I ask a quick question on that before I open it up? I'm asking this question because it's been on my mind for a while about the nature and human nature and certain things we have that are part of our nature, but we have to fight them. So, in Surat Al-Hujurat, it's telling us that I created men, women, different nationalities, and I've created diversity in essence, so that you may come to know know one another, and ultimately know that you are all from one source.
Yes.
Sometimes I say to myself, why was this verse put in there? Was this verse put in there to let us know that human beings are inherently tribal, inherently trying to put things into boxes and judge each other, and this is this, and we're not supposed to do that. So I just could like you to expand on that, if you could, please.
Yeah, it is without doubt addressing the reality. So the Quran, the beauty of the Quran, it's talking common sense, which I usually repeat. Talking common sense. The Quran does not talk nonsense. Yes, we are communities. Yes, we are tribes. Yes, we are different nationalities. Yes, we are different colors, different languages. But this should not be the criteria for judgment. Okay. What is it then? Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. He did put the criteria. What is it? The best among you in Allah's eyes is the one who has the best conduct, the best taqwa. This is how you judge if you were to judge. Yes? It's not about the external, the color, it's the language, it's the tribe. No, 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 no. Nothing of this. What is it? It's something that you can't see. It's your connection with Allah, your piety, your good conduct. This is how you can tame this wild beast in you, which want to judge everyone by this and by that. I'm better than them. I'm the supreme. They are the inferior, and these kind of things. Which we have the arrogance, kibr in all of us. We have this. And the very first crime that being committed was the crime of kibr by Iblis, where he says, Ana khayrun min. I'm better than Adam. Who's this Adam? You created him from clay? What? I'm better than him. And this arrogance, as well, we have the arrogance all over the place. But we need to tame it. We need to control it and have instead humility, humbleness.
Yes. Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna hand over to Binta, and Binta and I are fielding so I'll put myself on mute. So let's put hands up if people have questions, comments. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.
Thank you so much for this wonderful talk. There are so many things, like Aziz, I was also kind of just taking a lot of notes and things that kind of just remind me in reflection. And I think one of the things Aziza mentioned is that, how Allah has a good opinion of us and how we should be able to then, in a way, teaching us how to also look at other people and how to treat other people. So thank you so much. I just had some questions that came, and one touched on something you mentioned actually, but in another verse. So you've mentioned ruh, right? The Quran being a ruh. But someone mentioned that there's a question where they, for them, they're obviously, you've mentioned about the non-Arabic and speaking. Ruh in Surat Al-Qadr is something that they had a question or struggled with understanding what the sense of ruh, because it talks about the spirit coming down, the angels and the spirit coming down. Wanted to understand if you can elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yes.
And then I can go to the next question after that.
This is a very straightforward answer. Al-Ruh in Surah Al-Qadr is Jibreel alayhi salam. Allah called Jibreel many times. نزل به الروح الأمين على قلبك. In the same ayah which I mentioned regarding on your heart, it mentioned Jibreel. نزل به الروح الأمين. The trusted spirit is Jibreel alayhi salam. So whenever you have in this context, Al-Ruh in Surah Al-Qadr and other surahs, it's Jibreel, referring to Jibreel.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is, I know you talked about always, you yourself reading the Quran all the time, but then sometimes you read a verse and then you pause and say, wow, I can't even remember, or, this particular nugget I'm getting from it. So another question was, for example, we've had to read Surah Al-Qaf every Friday. Why is there the consistency or the need to constantly read something, even if we've read it over and over? Why is the lesson in that?
Many things.
The question.
The number one, the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, whoever recites Surah Al-Kahf on Friday, it will enlighten his week till next Friday. So it brings light to your heart, to your house, to your mind, this very surah. Number two is about the lessons, mainly the 4 stories which you read in this very surah, about the people of the caves, those who protected their deen, sacrificed their life and their connection with the community to preserve and protect their deen. And number 3, the good companion. They were youngsters, they have life ahead of them, they sacrificed their life to protect their deen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them and made their name in the Quran, which we recite every time, because of their sacrifices, because of their qualities. So it's a motivational thing as well to follow the footsteps of these people who are young, who are sacrificing everything they have for the sake of Allah. So deen is number 1 priority and everything comes after. As well, the story of Musa with Al-Khadr, the humility and the lesson of humbleness between Musa and Al-Khadr, the story of Dhul Qarnayn, and so on. So it's a continuous reminder about categories which we face on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question, it says, to continue this question, I think you mentioned earlier about pondering, Aziza, and I think, Sheikh mentioned, is, could we say that there are different layers or levels of pondering? So, we recite all of the time, but are there different levels of pondering and reflection?
Of course. I'll give you a very quick, easy one to understand. The level of pondering in Ramadan is very, very different than the level of pondering outside Ramadan. The level of pondering next to Kaaba is different than the level of pondering away from Kaaba, and so on. So you can see these easy examples to understand.
Okay. All right, those are the questions for now. Aziza, do you want to jump in? I know you mentioned that you had additional questions as well.
So another question I wanted to just highlight was what you said about, in our daily ritual, in our daily worship, every day we are praying for others, and there's a connectivity. You use the word grid. We're making dua for each other. And I was told once that every time actually you don't do your prayers, you're actually depriving that grid of your. There's a deprivation going on. That's what I was told, which was quite encouraging for me. and the fact that our actions have a global impact. You know, we every time we're not, you know, everything you do is having an impact. But even the Quran is, even the words in our salat are having a global impact, just as our negative actions will have an impact. And then you now zoomed into the terminology, the grammar of Fatiha, and how there's so many plural pronouns in there. And so that is, again, moving away from the ego, moving away from the I, of saying, you we're part of something, we're a we. You know, so the language of the Quran is moving us towards, away from self, towards community. Our Islamic social structure, Friday, Eid, you know, for men who go, you know, regularly for prayers in the mosque, obviously they have that every
charity and so on. Yeah.
So it's moving us away from that sort of egoic self. We are part of something. In the current times, there is a lot of isolation globally, which is leading, which I think human nature is social. We are social beings, you know, even, you know, we are just social. So there's that very normal quality of socializing that is being minimized considerably during this corona pandemic. That is affecting us, that is affecting many people. Some people actually are benefiting from the quiet and being able to reflect and go deep. So different personalities react differently. And some people are really suffering from it. What kind of advice do you give to people in terms of maintaining the sense of community and congregation and consciousness of being part of a bigger whole, consciousness of having a mission within this cosmos?
Number one, understand that this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I've delivered many talks throughout the last year. You can read plenty of them on our blogs. Why do we have these tests? Sometimes it's to give us a new dimension in our life, show us what is the real priority, instead of being enslaved to the system and doing the rat race on a daily basis, instead of getting into the competition in dunya and making this priority number one on the expense of your deen, your family, your health, your spirituality, and so on. Now you've been struck by this and you find that it's not worth it, to be honest. The most important thing now is my family, is my health, is, you know, my deen. So you see that it's just like a slap on the face to wake you up and give you a new direction. So although it's bitter and tough, but at the same time, it's full of mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, that He's showing you the right way. And until you get it right, you won't be able to benefit from this test. It will be bitter all the way through. But if you were to understand it, then bitterness will change to sweetness, inshallah ta'ala, and difficulty into ease, bi'idhnillah.
Inshallah. We have someone, a gentleman, Ibrahim from London, that raised his hand. So we'll just allow him to share.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Can you please give us a taster of the, the grammar and the linguistic beauty of the Quranic terms? Like, if it was said differently, it would mean a totally different meaning or different story. So we can feel the beauty and the taste of the in the Quran, because it has its own weight actually in how it's been written.
Yes, yes.
So kindly, if you just touch on that one. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome. Yes, I'll just go very quickly to the same ayah in Surat Al-Fatiha. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. So the structure here, you have إِيَّاكَ in the normal structure, it should be number 3, not number 1. So for instance, you say رَأَيْتُ زَيْدًا in Arabic. I have seen Zayd. So رأيت زيدا. زيدا is مفعول به. Yes. زيدا in the structure is number 3. I have seen Zayd. Yes. In the grammatical structure, if you take Zayd and put it first, that structure will mean something completely different. If you said in Arabic, Zaydan ra'aytu, it means something different. What does it mean? It means in Arabic we call it hasr, exclusivity, i.e., when you say I have seen Zaid, it doesn't mean in any shape or form, even in English, that you've seen nobody but Zaid. It means you've seen Zaid today, that's fine. It might have been that you've seen Zaid and Amr and Khalid and Aziza and what have you. Yes? But when you say Zaidan ra'aytu, linguistically, grammatically, it means I've seen nobody today but Zaid. Exclusivity for Zaid. And let me come back to the ayah. It could have been, from grammatical point of view, not in the Quran. Let's take the ayah outside the Quran and say, is it grammatically right to say na'budu iyyaka? Yes, it is right. Grammatically, it is right to say na'budu iyyaka. That's fine. But Allah didn't say na'budu iyyaka. Allah did say iyyaka na'budu. Why? To show exclusivity, that we worship you alone. And this is alone, you can't see it in the Arabic. It's from the meaning, the structure of the sentence. It shows you this alone comes from putting iyyaka first rather than na'budu, the verb first. You put iyyaka first. This is showing the exclusivity. So if it had been na'budu iyyaka, the meaning would be that we worship you, but we might worship somebody else with you. If it was na'budu iyyaka rather than iyyaka na'budu. You see what I'm saying? So when Allah put iyyaka na'budu, it means na'buduka nakhussuka bil ibadati wahdaka wa la na'budu ahadan siwak. We worship you alone. Exclusively, we worship none with you, O Allah. And this is from the structure. Similarly, وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ, the same thing.
Thank you so much. We have another gentleman who raised his hand, Usman. Usman, are you still there? Okay. All right. Usman, okay, go ahead. Wa alaikum salam.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions tazkiyah, the word tazkiyah in the Quran a lot. And how do you use tazkiyah in your daily life routine so you can improve your spirituality and your heart? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says that one returns with qalban salima.
We can't hear you properly, Osman. Can you make your voice better or closer to the mic?
Usman, he's written his question in the chat, so maybe I read it out if my voice is coming across. He's saying the word, Allah mentions the word tazkiyah in the Quran, and how do we apply tazkiyah in our daily lives, in our daily routine, and be on the state of improving, and always be on a state of improving your spirituality. He wrote it in the chat as well, so that's very helpful. Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. As well, he mentioned ربنا وابعث فيهم رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياتك ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة ويزكيهم, in the supplication of Ibrahim alayhi salam, which he made to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that, oh Allah, send among them a messenger from among them who recites your verses to them and teach them the book and the wisdom and purify them. So Allah responded and accepted the supplication of Ibrahim, and he sent the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam to do tazkiyah, purification for the ummah. And the purification here usually is divided into two main divisions: the outward, the inward. The outward purification, the scholars always talk about it in fiqh, like cleanliness, like wudu, like these kind of things. And the purity of your clothes, purity of the place where you pray, purity of the body, and so on and so forth. This is a requirement for the inner purity. So you can't get into the inner purity without the outer purity or the external one. So this is number one. Number two, which is the internal purity or the spiritual one. It's related to the heart. Related to the heart, and Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala in his book Ihya Ulumuddin, as he divided his book into 4 quarters, quarter 1, 2, and 3, and 4. He in the 4th quarter of his book, the last quarter of his book, he talks about al-munjiyat, what is really saves you from the diseases of the heart. He talks in the quarter 3, he talks about al-muhlikat, al-muhlikat, the diseases. And he talks, this is where he talks about diseases of the heart. Well, you need to identify the diseases and be familiar with it in order to get rid of it. And he goes through the details, how to, for instance, stop envy, hatred, uh, uh, arrogance, all these kind of uh, heart diseases. The Quran, without doubt, is the cure. As Allah stated, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. So we read from the Quran what is a cure and healing for the believers, and rahmah and mercy for the believers. So by reciting the Quran on a daily basis, this is a cure for the heart. By uh, following your obligations on a daily basis, i.e., performing your salah on time, by looking after your parents, by doing your obligations towards Allah first, towards the family second, then this is forms of purification. Following the guidance of the Quran by being away from envy, being away from hatred and these kind of things, it helps you to stay focused. And it's easy, simple, uh, regular thing which we can do to get into purification. And Prophet ﷺ used to have on a daily basis something which we call wird. Wird, which is a daily recitation, daily supplication he used to do, the morning and the evening one. If you were to start with this, inshallah, this is the way forward to purify the heart. In the morning, what to recite? He used to recite, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, special supplications, and he will start his day, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with 100 istighfar and 100 la ilaha illallah. So if we were to start our day with this, it will purify the heart and gives us the light for the whole day, inshallah ta'ala. So keeping these daily dhikr and adhkar and awrad and improving it slowly, this will help us to stay, inshallah, purified. Now, if we can have a teacher who's qualified from knowledge and from spirituality, then this will be a shortcut if you want to purification. But you need to find the right person with the right knowledge and the right understanding. Otherwise, sticking to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is the beginning and the first step, inshallah.
Thank you. So there are a few questions coming in. One is, under what conditions, place, and time are such reflective moments worthy of keeping during Ramadan and beyond?
It might be during Ramadan, but it is not exclusive to Ramadan. You might get this during one night you are praying tahajjud prayer, or it might be that you have prayed your salah after dhuhr and you are reflecting on some verses and reading the Quran. Depends on the state of your heart, actually. Of course, the time is another bonus, which will help us to be more reflective, but it's not an exclusive thing to Ramadan.
And we have a hand raised by Jamila Dawood. Jamila Dawood.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
If Sheikh will permit me, as for mine is a kind of mudakhala يعني.
أهلا وسهلا.
طيب شكرا. You made mention of mawarith, which is inheritance, when you were talking about hududillah wal hukuk, you know, stuffs like that.
Yes.
And then I thought about it, and I was like, you know, things like this, people just look at the minor ones, or the ones that the misconceptions, and then they zoom it out, and then they talk about it. But qadiyatul mirath, when you look at it, you realize that there are so many cases that some women are have even more than men have, you know, qadiyatul mirath. So sometimes it is equal, both men and women, based on the conditions and cases. Sometimes women even get more than men, but all these people don't talk about it. And as you mentioned, you know, sometimes there is a wisdom behind it. There's a wisdom behind it, which maybe you might not know. So if we ask scholars, when we something confuses us, I think is better than you know, trying to. And then there is a difference between al-adl wal-musawa. You know, sometimes there is a difference between equality and then justice. Sometimes try to share something amongst certain people equally is injustice.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Jamila.
So that's
Yes,
what
yes. To be honest with you, definitely our topic is not mawaris, but yes, I agree with you, because we have around 36 cases. The woman inherits more than men in these cases, and in around 8 cases or 7 cases, men inherits more than women. So we forgot about 30 cases and we just focus on few cases and say, that's it, this is not justice, blah, blah, blah. Regardless, even let's say we have less or more cases, our belief as servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to say sami'na wa ata'na regardless. I'm not saying you are not allowed Islamically to think, you are, but sometimes you cannot comprehend the wisdom of Allah. You say, that's it, if it came from Allah, I accept it, and that's it, done.
Jinta, can I just jump in quickly, because just to link up what Sheikh has just said with a question I just read in the chat.
Okay.
Because how can we apply tajdeed, renewal, in the way we reread the Quran in the context of current realities, bearing in mind that the Quran is a book of all time?
Yes, this is something very important to address, but it's a sharp edge. It might hurt, and it might be used in good things. So I came across at least 3 to 4 books. They call themselves new reading to the Quran, or Al-Quran Qira'a Mu'asira, a contemporary reading to the Quran. And they claim that they are doing tajdeed in reading the Quran. The concept itself, to revisit the verses, to reflect upon the verses, nothing wrong with this. In one condition, you need to be qualified. You cannot go to the operation theater, operate on someone, if you've never practiced medicine. But we accept Somebody has no clue, no idea, no qualification, apart from he knows some Arabic, yes, he can go and read the Quran in a contemporary way and insert in the Quran some mathematical equations and some I don't know what, and then comes up with that hijab is not obligation, comes up with things that riba is not haram, comes up with what is this kind of new contemporary reading? The concept is fine, but the application has to be based on knowledge. It's not based on, yes, I stick on the book contemporary reading, then it's fine. No. No one will take you seriously if you were to write a book in medicine if you are not a qualified medical specialist. No one. So why you want and expect from me to take you seriously if you want to write something about Quran, if you have no qualification in Arabic and Sharia and what have you, yes, and you want to write something on the Quran? What's that? It's a joke. But
Thank
having
you.
said this, of course, there are some good reflections, good books. It's not the old way of reading the Quran. It's a new way, which is fine as long as it's in line with the guidance of the Sharia and the Arabic language and the principles, then that's fine. Nothing wrong with this. The thematic tafsir, for instance. This is a new thing. It wasn't 500 years ago. Then that's fine. As long as it's in line with the guidance, that's fine.
Thank you, Sheikh. That's really helpful. You've mentioned during the talks the message that Allah wants us to know from Adam alayhi salam to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is about the taqwa, the perfecting of the good character, and the perfecting of good conduct. There's a question that said,
not taqwa. Number one is monotheism, yes. Tawheed of Allah.
Tawheed, sorry, Tawheed, yes, and then the perfection of the character and the perfection of the conduct. So there's a question is that what is the difference between perfecting character and perfecting conduct?
You might have good conduct, but you don't have good character. So you have to have the two in order to be on the right level of righteousness. So the righteous people, people of taqwa, they have the right conduct and they have the right character.
Then are you able to kind of give us maybe something more tangible in terms of to show what would be considered a good character versus a good conduct?
For instance, somebody might be very charitable, but you can't speak to him. He is a very aggressive person, but he's very charitable. And you hate him even if he's charitable. Yes? Now you need to be nice and kind. You give people, you give with a cheerful face, you give people, you don't keep reminding them about it. This is the character. Yes, the character.
Okay.
Although the action is good, mashallah, he has built this school, but he keeps abusing the student by telling them, remember, I have built a school for you. Da, 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 da. What's this? It has this is bad character. Although the conduct which he has done, building the school, is something good, but people hate him instead of loving him.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I just jump in there, because this really kind of brings to mind the whole concept of emotional intelligence.
Right.
One applies emotional intelligence in different cultures. But what I found with time is that you'll have people where in certain cultures, people can actually interact with people in quite a harsh way. Like in their culture, maybe it's not seen as harsh, you know, and then maybe they're doing a good deed, they're delivering, they're helping the community, they're doing, but they're so harsh. And in their culture, that's respected. That's like, oh yes, we do things, we're straightforward, we don't have time for niceties, boom, boom, boom. And in another culture, it's all about, like West African culture is all about personal relationships, how you address people, you ask for the family. It's very about the relationship. So how people behave is very important. And then you have some people coming from that culture to this culture thinking, but I did this and I did that. How come they're just not cooperating? And there's this clash of cultures, which is really quite fascinating. But I suppose we're following the prophetic way of akhlaq and the way the Prophet interacted with people. That's our role model, right? Regardless
The culture is not the judge. The character, the prophetic character is the judge.
MashaAllah. There's a question, something you've mentioned about the Quran being a book in a way where you ask and the more you seek, it provides the answers for you. So you've mentioned that one of the questions says, sometimes it feels like our own question directly gets answers through the readings of the Quran, as you've mentioned, but also through talks like your own and other teachers, sheikhs, and some ustads, without even asking them sometimes. Is it possible that this is not just a coincidence, but that it is a mercy from Allah himself, a mercy and a blessing from Allah?
I don't believe in coincidence. There's no coincidence. There's qadar. We Muslims, we don't believe in coincidence. We believe in qadar. Yes?
So the question, the person asking the question is following on, like you mentioned, there's no coincidence but qadar. But they're saying, when this does indeed happen, should we not read too much into it, or what do we take from it? If it's not coincidence, we think it's qadar. How do we really navigate around that?
On a specific thing. I can comment on a general thing, because
Sure.
it might be that he's going through something and then he heard somebody saying something and he got it. That's fine.
Yes.
If you got the message, alhamdulillah, that's good. But does it mean that every time you hear something, it's for you? It might be yes, might be no, depends on the scenario, situation, what have you. But I can tell you from experience, sometimes we go and visit our teachers and we are going through something, but we didn't say anything to the sheikh, for instance. And the sheikh will give us the answer for the dilemma which we have. And we say, how did you know about this?
Right.
But that's it. We got the answer. We go and apply it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Aziza, do you have any more questions?
I just picked up the question in the chat. The questions are hidden in the chat. This is an amazing chat. It says, and it's obviously referring to what Sheikh was saying earlier, so I'll mention the question. What if we cannot afford to go to the Kaaba? Are we excluded? Will seclusion in a place with little or no distraction suffice? I presume this is where you were talking about how your level of pondering when you're near the Kaaba will be different when you're in a different location.
Right.
I presume this is relating to that point you made, Sheikh.
Yes, again, it's the same answer as the Ramadan. It's not exclusive to Ramadan. It's not exclusive to Kaaba. You might be on the top of the mountain, away from Kaaba, 1,000 miles. But Allah Azza wa Jal inspired you with some reflections. So it's not only the place which inspires you. It's as well the purity of the heart and the intention.
All right, thank you. There was a question that came in that talked about the repetition within the Quran as we read. And they just wanted to have an understanding. Say, for example, the stories of Musa alayhi salam continues, different parts of the Quran. So if you can share a little bit why, I've read different places where they said, it's difficult because the Quran is not chronological. It kind of gives you lessons here and there and repeats them again. If you can touch a little bit on the importance of that lessons of repetition within the Quran.
The beauty of the Quran, it repeats the same story with different details. It's not being repeated. I can assure you, it's not being repeated in the same details every time. Never. Always you have something more, something less, a new dimension, a new thing. So it gives you different dimensions to the same story, and Allah wants you to see this because it's so important. It's a symbolic story about when people disobey Allah, when people disobey their messenger, what will happen in different forms.
Can I just comment there, Sheikh? Thank you, about this concept, this pattern of continuity that we observe in the Quran. So for instance, one notices that the end, what is the verses at the end of a surah quite often are tied to the verses at the beginning of the next surah. There's like a circular formation, like you have Surat Al-Waqiah and Hadid. You know, if you look at the end and the beginning, there's a continuity in the theme. You know, Isra and Surat Al-Kahf, again, continuity. Surat Al-Tur and Najd, there's a continuity. What can we say about this continuity and this cyclical rhythm?
Al-Imam al-Biqai wrote a book called ترتيب نظم الدرر في تناسب الآيات والسور. Imam al-Biqai, he's from Lebanon, proud of, yeah. He said نظم الدرر في تناسب الآيات والسور. This book, 22 volumes, dedicated, is not tafsir, it's dedicated to talk about the sequence of the verses of the Quran and the surahs of the Quran. Why is it like this, and what's the connection between the verses and between the surahs and between the surahs and the verses? So he dedicated the 22 volumes to talk about this topic in his book, rahimahullah. So, for instance, he talks about Surat Al-Fatiha. Surat Al-Fatiha ends with غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين, and before that it says اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. So it finishes with asking for guidance and not to be in the direction of those who lost that guidance. And then Surat Al-Baqarah starts ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين. It talks about hidayah. So you are seeking guidance in Surah Al-Fatiha towards the end. Surah Al-Baqarah gives you the hidayah, and so on. So this is how the surahs are connected.
Just another question, and Binta, jump in any time. Sure. Again, this is to do with the grammatical shifts in the Quran. So if you take a surah like Az-Zumar, Surah 39, verse 71, why, this is a verse talking about the hereafter, you know, Al-Akhirah. Why is this verse, which from a human perspective, Al-Akhirah is the hereafter is in the future. That's my own human perspective, my limited perspective.
Yes.
But this verse in the Arabic is in the wording in the surah in the Arabic is in the past tense.
Yes.
Can we highlight this? I know a lot of the English translations have written it in the present tense, but the actual Arabic text is in the past tense.
It is. It is.
What can we say about a future?
This is one of the beauties of the Arabic language. To understand the structure, the Arab talk about the future in the past tense if they were certain that this will happen. So he expressed it as it's something already happened. You cannot deny. If I were to tell you that in 2004 you attended the Beehive, you can't argue because you attended the Beehive. This is something done and dusted. Yes? And so something that happened, no one can argue about it because it's already happened. If I were to express the future in the past tense, it shows that the certainty and the yaqeen of that as if it's already happened. Yes? It's the confirmation that this is definitely happening. As you can't argue the past, you can't argue it. Which is very strong confirmation.
Yes. And this leads us back to, I remember one time, Sheikh, maybe in the early 2000s, we had a course with you and people were asking about the question of qadr and, you know, confusion. What is qadr? Does that mean we shouldn't do anything? If everything is known, why should we do something? And you gave a very interesting analogy of if I came into this room and I recorded, you know, the lesson happening, and then so I've got a recording of it, and I know we all know what's going to happen. Well, the person recording, our creator, knows what is going to happen. Has already that doesn't take away your responsibility in living out and making decisions of free will. So is this also this Az-Zumar point, this certainty that the grammar is reinforcing the concept of certainty? Is this also connected to the concept of qadr, the fact that Allah knows?
Of course,
yeah.
Of course, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written everything. Everything to Allah, the time is not confining Allah, it confines us. Allah has no time. Yes? So for him, past, future, the same, all been written, all done and dusted. Yes? But he reveals through stages what will happen. Yes? So it's a confirmation from Allah Azza wa Jal, and it's as well showing that everything has been written, as the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says in the hadith, رُفِعَتِ الْأَقْلَامُ وَجَفَّتِ الصُّحُفُ. The pen has been lifted and scrolls has been dried, i.e. nothing will change, everything has been written.
I know we've taken a lot of your time, but there's just too many questions here, so we have to grab these opportunities while we can. A lot of what has been said today, and a lot of what we see in society, a lot of our emotions, a lot of the issues that happen can be distilled down to ego. Essentially, ego is so much at the core, the human ego and the human wanting to do what they think they should do. They know best, wanting to not think about others, think of themselves, or even following our Islamic teachings, saying, oh, I don't feel like it now, okay, I'll do that, and just becoming entrenched in the self. And this is what you were saying about purification. The Yabban has to purify the heart. It's so important. What advice can you give us about that? Because essentially that is something we all have control over, or we can all train it. How do we tame the ego?
Number one is to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continuously to protect you from your own ego. And the dua, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min sharri nafsi. Oh Allah, I ask refuge in you against my own self, the evil of my own self. So you ask Allah to protect you from your own self, from your ego. This is number one. Number two, you stick to the prophetic supplications in the morning, in the evening. For those who wants to, you can go on our website or my YouTube channel actually. It's on the landing page, the morning supplication and evening supplication. You can read, you can listen. And this is what he used to say on a daily basis, alayhi salatu wassalam, keeps your heart pure and connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Keeping your prayers on time will help you to have immunity against evil, inshallah ta'ala. And keep on a daily basis something which we call the accountancy or muhasaba. Muhasaba. Do daily accountancy to yourself. So in the evening, just few seconds, few probably minutes, reflect upon what you have done. And ask Allah Azza wa Jal to keep you connected, keep you humble, keep you among those whom He loves, subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So just looking at that from a practical perspective, so I think when one is doing the evening dhikr, maybe after Maghrib or before Maghrib, that is a good time, not just to do the evening dhikr, but actually to do the muhasabah, to do the accounting, which is a useful opportunity to say, okay, I do my evening dhikr, and I'll also do the accounting for the day. What did I do? How did I behave? Can you just break down the accounting process? Are we saying, I said this, I shouldn't have said that, Allah forgive me for that, okay, I need to even apologize to that person, or are you talking about actions and analyzing the actions and seeing what you did wrong, what you did right, and learning from them and redressing the wrong? So trying to, clear your plates.
It's replaying the day if you want. Replay your day since the very morning till now. What have you done? Good things, praise Allah for that. Bad things, ask for forgiveness and rectify what you have done. Don't let it accumulate.
And I think that's also like as you mentioned, and as Sheikh just said, it's a really great way to kind of connect back to, your ego, because even if you're looking at it, when you're reflecting in your day, your ego wants to say, I'm not, even if you think about the things you've done good and not so good, they're not so good. The ego and the pride usually says, I don't want to let go. I don't want to go and ask for forgiveness. I don't want to go and correct this. But this process, but this process is hopefully what it's instilling in us is to let go of that and say, because I want to be a better person, because this is part of my iman, and like I need to really try to let go of that and release that ego and see how connected I am with other people. I think it's a really great way of
Very
looking.
true. Yeah. Imam al-Busiri, rahimahullah, in his قصيدة البردة وخالف النفس والشيطان وعصهما وإنهما محضاك النصح فاتهمي. So go against your nafs and against the shaitan. Even if they were to give you a piece of advice, refuse and reject this advice. It reminded me with this brother Ali, he mentioned something here that Sahaba mentioned that وجدنا راحتنا في مخالفة أنفسنا. We did find our comfort when we went against our own selves, our own whims and desires.
Yes. Someone also just mentioned that too, the ease in going against our ego self. But let me just, I guess, just to close some of the last questions. What happens, or you've mentioned in the dua and every morning as we do our dhikrs, but also to kind of keep asking Allah to help us, to be in good standing with Him, and in the actions that we do to be those that are pleasing to Him. How do you, or what can you share in terms of what about people who are struggling to be able to do that? Maybe with the pandemic and everything that's going on, mental health and just feeling the depression, something that they were able to do before, but are no longer able to do that. What are some of the tips that you think you can share with us to help those people to kind of, I take comfort in the message that you said earlier when we do Fatiha, and even at the end of our salah, in the prayers we do, knowingly or unknowingly, we are praying for the community. We're praying for people at large, right? So I'm hoping that we're reaching out to those people. But what are some of the practical tips that you can share with someone who is having that difficulty to even kind of get back into that stage?
Look, we have different scenarios. People getting into difficulties is not one level. We have different levels. If it's a very severe level, with my respect, definitely the recitation of the Quran will not give them cure. They need to ask for the specialist help. Psychiatrist, psychologist, something along these lines, and mental health has to be looked after. As you look after your well-being, your health, you look after your mental health as well. If it's not that severe, can be actually cured through different means. One of it, having a group of people around you, not necessarily physically, but we have the new technology now. It's much easier than before. You have your group around you, might be family, might be friends. It's the supportive circle around you will help you a lot, inshallah ta'ala. If you can't recite the Quran, one of the good ways is just to play the Quran and listen to the Quran. Have time to relax and listen to the Quran, even without understanding what it says. It gives you the power of healing to the heart, to the mind. It's very relaxing and very therapeutical, if you want. So let's try and do this. And keep your prayers on time. But pray the way the Prophet ﷺ used to pray, not the prayer which we are probably rushing every day. Try to improve the quality of your prayer, because improving the quality of your prayer will improve the spirituality which you have. Improving your spirituality will improve the mental health which you have. Inshallah, with the continuous dua as well, for yourself and from your supportive group around you, bi'iznillah, you will get better, inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah. Thank you so much for those tips. They are very, very helpful, and something we can all try. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Thank you so much. I think something that which I find useful as well, and we're all on this journey of struggling against the self, is actually acknowledging that there is an ego, that there's your nafs, and not defining yourself by the ego. So you take yourself away from the ego. So you kind of look at it and you can almost laugh at it and think, oh, like my temper, I lost my temper there. Okay, I need to go and apologize to this person. So you are not joining yourself with your ego. In a sense, you have a bit more monitoring, because you remove you say, okay, oh, that's my ego going off there. Okay. I find personally, I don't know what the Islamic take on that, but I found that quite useful. I mean, what would be, I know Ghazali talks about the nafs and the ego. I don't know what the Islamic take is on this perception of seeing it as a separate entity that needs to be managed.
The scholars usually talk about nafs. They talk about the nafs always. So nafs is like your desires and ego and these kind of things. So, and somehow, yes, they talk about it as a separate entity. Fight your own nafs and deal with your own nafs and tame your own nafs and purify your own nafs. Yes, yeah, definitely that scholars do say this a lot.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Thank you so much for your time. We've taken a lot of your time today, but it's been really enlightening, and I really pray that we all benefit from the teachings you've given us, and it draws us close to Allah, and may Allah forgive us all for our mistakes and facilitate things for all of us. Please, we would love it if you could please close with a dua for us, inshallah.
آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم يا رب يا رحمن يا بديع السماوات والأرض يا ذا الجلال والإكرام، اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته، ولا هما إلا فرجته، ولا دينا إلا قضيته، ولا مريضا إلا شفيته. اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين، وارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين. Ya Allah, enable us to follow the footsteps of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Purify our hearts from all the diseases, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Fill our hearts with your love and the love of your Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Allah, make our deeds purely for your sake. Purify our intentions, purify our actions. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen. Have mercy on us, Ya Allah. Be with us, support us, forgive us. Cure our illnesses, cure our illnesses, cure our illnesses, the physical, the mental, the spiritual. Ya Rabbal Alameen, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen. Forgive our parents, our teachers, our shuyukh, our students, our families, our spouses, our children, and everyone who asks us to make dua for him or her. Ya Rabbal Alameen. صلي وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. آمين آمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خيرا. Inshallah, see you soon, بإذن الله.
See you soon, Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum.